They believed the film was phony, that Camron would never cross that line. But then the audio dropped, raw and unedited. And let me tell you something, it didn't just expose Chrissy Lampkin, it shattered everything she attempted to maintain. Buried. So what did she say? Oh, nothing important. She admitting to using JimJones as a pawn while fooling around with Camron behind the scenes for years. And the worst part, Camron taped it on purpose. This ain't love and hip-hop drama. This is courtroom-level treachery, with studio receipts, burner phones, and a voice memo that could wreck a whole career. JimJones didn't scream or cry. He just sat there listening as if he'd just witnessed his entire relationship brand and his reputation are lit on fire and he couldn't do anything about it. So now the issue is, was this all a setup from day one? Did Camron play the long game? And was Chrissy Lampkin ever truly faithful or simply a well-dressed time? What's worse than a breakup is a publicly aired betrayal. And that's exactly what happened between Chrissy, Lampkin, Camron, and JimJones in a scandal that has not only shaken Dipset to its core, but also has the internet questioning one thing. Was everything a lie? It began like any other messy internet rumor, with a few murmurs, a dodgy DM leak, and suddenly bang, an audio file appears. Not just any audio, but private timestamped and unedited film of Chrissy Lampkin supposedly, telling Camron, not JimJones, how she never stopped thinking about him. But the real kicker is that she says it while sipping wine, chuckling and referring to JimJones as a brand, not a guy. Yeah, one sentence alone burned down 3 group chats and transformed Twitter into a cemetery. But let's backtrack for a second, because this audio leak didn't come out of nowhere. According to people close to Cam's team, this was planned. It wasn't a slip or a vengeance leak from a disgruntled buddy, but rather a calculated cold-blooded release by Camron himself. Why? Because apparently Cam's done playing nice. You see, the friction between Camron and JimJones has been seething under the surface for over a decade. Once the heart of Dipset, their brotherhood was admired by the culture. But behind the A business, conflict creative differences. And yes, women drove a big hole between them. But for years, both sides played it cool until now. Music. Now let's speak about the audio itself. This wasn't caught on the sly or plucked out of a cloud, according to individuals who've heard the whole version, not just the 40-second viral clip. This was captured in a private studio apartment, where Camron and Chrissy supposedly connected up 2 months ago. And in this footage, Chrissy's voice is clear as day. No distortion, no editing. She states, "Jim still believes I'm in love with the concept of us, but he doesn't know I've been gone for I've been with him in interviews for a long time, but with you when it's genuine." Then she laughs, and the camera says nothing. You can hear the sound of a lighter flick, then a beat drops in the background, as if this isn't merely a controversy, this is a soundtrack to sabotage. Let's not pretend Chrissy's been squeaky clean. People have had concerns ever since the Moran Hotel film broke last year. Recall that the blurry video at 2:14 a.m., she entered a luxurious suite. I'm with Reggie, who was suspiciously wearing a sweatshirt like Cam's at the moment Chrissy Lampkin alleged it was her cousin. Cam denied everything, and Jim didn't even react. But now the audio makes one thing clear. Cam was there. Reggie was. A ghost. The lie was layered. And if that wasn't enough, let's break down what else was in the leak. At one point in the recording, Camron asks her, "You ever feel guilty?" And Chrissy responds without missing a beat. "Not anymore. I gave him everything for 10 years, now I'm doing me." That doing me apparently includes, according to former VH1 staff members, Chrissy Lampkin had been moaning for years that she felt bound in by Jim's image. One ex-producer stated Chrissy wanted to rebrand. She didn't want to be the supporting fiancé longer. She wanted to be the main act, not the co-star. And guess who gave her the attention? Camron's sources claim Camron had been monitoring and watching Chrissy Lampkin for months. Private planes, burner phones, covert talks. One insider stated Cam didn't simply pull her. He handled her like a CEO, switching a competitor brand. Inside. This takes us to Jim Dodge. Jim Jones found out on live stream, yup, he wasn't pre-warned. He wasn't given a courtesy call. He was mid-interview talking about his new album when his assistant gave him a phone and said Jim Jones halted, glanced down, played the audio once, then again, and just shut off. He didn't overturn a table or storm out. Instead, he gazed at the screen and said, "That's her." In that moment, DPET fans across the world realized this wasn't just celebrity drama, but a real-time meltdown of devotion, legacy, and love. And it didn't end there. Moments later, Mama Jones Jim's own mother took to Facebook, live her face puffy, her tone furious. Her message, I told him. I told my kid she wasn't right, but he wanted his fairy tale. Now fairy tales are burning because the internet did what the internet does, it delved deeper. Reddit posts sprung up comparing the leaked audio to Chrissy's earlier interviews. One user provided a tape from a 2018 Breakfast Club interview in which Chrissy said, "Camron is like family. There's nothing like that between us." Well, honey, the receipts show otherwise. Even more stunning is that this may have been deliberate. A brand collapse, certainly, but also a brand transfer. Since some believe Chrissy Lampkin and Cam were scheming their own spin-off, silently taping conversations, accumulating clips, and collecting drama in real time to offer to streaming providers, consider the other side of Love and Hip Hop Raw. Shocking and entirely unscripted sound, far-fetched. But when you hear out that Cam's lawyer just made a move to safeguard intellectual property related with recorded footage from July to October. Yeah, he's treating this leak as content, not proof. Now here's where it gets nasty. The leaked audio wasn't even the only tape. Sources believe 2 other recordings exist. One from a backstage VH1 session where Chrissy supposedly overheard asking, "Mona Scott, can we eliminate that line about Jim? It's not real anymore." And I'm just playing the part the second of voicemail from Chrissy to Camron where she reportedly states, "I miss the old. When it was just us, Jim was too busy pursuing clout, but you still see me." That last line is now a meme, and "you still see me" is the hashtag war cry of the week. It's on shirts, TikTok, and lip syncs, even petty comments from random reality stars. And that's where we halt, because just as the world started responding to the leak, Camron himself broke his quiet, posting a single statement to Instagram with no caption, just white text. A dark screen. You shouldn't have played both sides in post 1. 4.4 million likes in 9 hours. No hashtags, no follow-ups, just a digital mic drop. But what happened next, even Camron didn't see coming, because someone with anonymous burner account belonging to a former VH1 intern stole a Dropbox folder, and inside contains pictures, travel receipts, even a photo of Chrissy Lampkin and Cam boarding a private jet to Turks and Caicos during the same week. Jim Jones was hospitalized for fatigue, and just like that, the fuse was ignited anew. Because if you thought the audio leak was the climax, or the IG Live was the aftermath, nah, that was just the dress. What occurred next wasn't simply scandalous. It was lethal to the brand, the relationship, and every lie they assumed would be buried forever. The courtroom was packed, and Jim Jones strolled in wearing all black, no chains, no grin, no entourage, just his lawyer and his mother behind him. Mama Jones was covered in a church coat and carrying Kleenex like they were a weapon. Chrissy Lampkin arrived 15 minutes later alone, hair slicked back, mouth tight, dressed like she was heading to a funeral she created. And maybe she was, but the tension reached a whole new level as Camron arrived, calm, cool, caramel leather trenchcoat, sunglasses inside 2 steps behind. Jim's lawyer stood, clutching another folder labeled simply Exhibit C. The court didn't spend time, quickly addressing the public damage caused by the now viral recordings. First, he demanded a gag order on all parties, alleging emotional harassment, brand exploitation, and deliberate defamation. Then, he presented the judge with a written contract that was authentic. Jim and Chrissy signed a deal for the production of a co-branded documentary series, Love Always Wins, which contained stipulations concerning emotional purity, brand protection, and exclusive representation. The type of documentation that says, you don't just break hearts, you breach contracts. And the judge read it attentively page by page, then looked squarely at Chrissy Lampkin, During the development of this series, Chrissy was sexually connected with Mr. Giles and Mr. Camron. She didn't blink or sigh, just nodded once. Yes, that single word blew the courtroom. Mama Jones screamed loudly and audibly like a soul was departing. The corpse JimJones only stared down, fingers clasped on the table, white lips shaking. The judge asked, "Were you aware that revealing this relationship could harm the credibility of your co-branded content?" Another yes. The judge did not respond, but the room did. Someone in the gallery mumbled, "Ugh, she cooked herself." Another speaker screamed back, "She don't even care, and maybe she didn't because what happened next confirmed every hunch." The internet had been shouting about for weeks. Cam's lawyer approached the bench. No theatrics, no warnings, simply quiet words that shot a jolt through the whole courtroom. "We'd want to submit one final tape." The judge approved it. The bailiff wheeled out a monitor. Everyone switched it on. Sluggish static. Then a voice, Chrissy's no makeup, no glam, sitting across from Yandy Smith in what looked like a production trailer. "I'm tired of lying. She said I love him, but not in the manner he requires. Jim wants forever, and I simply needed a minute." Cam provided me that. Yandy looked uncomfortable, fidgeted, then added, "You know this isn't going to stay secret, right?" Chrissy Lampkin sipped something from a single cup and laughed. "If it leaks, it leaks. I've been hiding for a decade. Let the fire come back in the courtroom." The screen turned to black. Nobody moved, not even the judge, till he finally asked, "Mrs. Lampkin, is this film authentic, Chrissy?" "Yes, do you understand this undermines your claims of good faith in your joint commercial endeavors, Chrissy Lampkin?" The gavel did not decrease, but the harm was done when Jim's team officially filed a countersuit alleging emotional fraud, purposeful deceit, and brand manipulation were not only personal, but also financial and federal. But just when things couldn't get much worse, a court clerk stepped in, whispered something in the judge's ear. He nodded and delivered the words that converted the controversy into a probable criminal probe. "This court has received paperwork from Homeland Security, and Ms. Lampkin is now a person of interest in an ongoing investigation, alleging digital manipulation and nonprofit misappropriation related to footage cited in earlier hearings." Gasps audibly. Mona Scott's aide is sitting silently in the back, placed a folder on the floor. VH1's lawyer rose up instantly. "Your Honor, we object. This is beyond the jurisdiction of this case." The judge shut it down. "Objection noted, however, this will be addressed." Chrissy's lawyer seemed to someone had ripped the battery out of his spine, and Chrissy finally looked terrified, her eyes dropping to the table, her hands trembling, and her words mute. Meantime, Camron watched it all, like a man at the movie premiere. He directed himself and Jim. He stood up, not loud, not furious, just calm, methodical, moved to the center of the courtroom, and turned to Chrissy Lampkin. The judge permitted JimJones, simply responded, "Was any of it for me, or was I just the cover story?" Chrissy couldn't answer because the stillness that followed was louder than the leak, louder than the audio, and louder than Cam's smirks and Mona's denials were the stillness of a man discovering the love of his life was only devoted to the scheme. The judge requested a short recess, but the press was already on fire before Jim even made it out the courthouse door. TMZ Shade Room and every dirty YouTuber in existence were already splicing the tape into bits, and the hashtag started trending. Within minutes, Chrissy Lampkin admits Camron was the plan-tossed Jim deserved. Better VH1 disclosed Homeland Camron files, and then came the ultimate blow while court was on recess. Camron's team posted a teaser trailer on Twitter. One clip 30 seconds of Chrissy in a hotel room wearing a dipping set. Hoodie talking on the phone. "Jim's on tour. I've got 2 hours you coming or not" voice on the other end, already. Downstairs, screen transitions to black writing, fades in the footage they attempted to cover arriving. Soon back in court, the atmosphere was radioactive, and Even the judge was exhausted. He restarted proceedings, asking both legal teams for closing statements, and adjourned until final motions could be addressed next week. But honestly, the verdict had already dropped in public opinion in the press in Jim's face and in every confession Chrissy Lampkin promised would never surface by the time Jim left the courthouse. His team had already erased all images Chrissy from his social media mom. Jones declined to talk to the press, but was observed crying silently in the corridor. Chrissy Lampkin departed through a back exit with no words, just a black hoodie, large sunglasses, and the quiet realization that her reality had become a broadcast cautionary tale. Cam did not leave right away. He remained in the courtroom foyer, talking to his lawyer and sipping coffee, a grin never leaving his face. One journalist questioned him, "Why now?" Camron merely grinned and said, "I waited for the appropriate conclusion." And then he walked out like the credits were playing behind him. A few hours later, one final leak hit. The Chrissy sent an online text thread from a burner phone to a contact saved as MSY Mona Scott Young, with the phrase, "Delete everything." He knows it's finished, but nothing was erased. Archived, and now, it belongs to the world be love tale dead. The brand shattered the truth, playing on loop forever. 30 minutes later, everyone was back in their seats. But this time, the vibe had altered. No one glanced at Chrissy Lampkin, the judge, not the court reporters, not even her own lawyer. She sat there alone, as if the air around her had thickened, as if guilt had finally dug its claws into the instant Jim Jones was sitting, arms folded, no emotion on his face. Anger, not grief. Simply done a guy who didn't need to speak anymore because the truth had already yelled on his behalf. And then, as if the devil was on lunch break and gave the case to his assistant, the clerk strolled in again. Time with a flash drive packed in an evidence bag stamped HSI Homeland Security investigations. The judge unzipped it like it was burning through his fingers, inserted it into the courthouse system, turned to the room, and this comprises sealed surveillance audio and metadata files mentioning Ms. Lampkin, Ms. Scott Young, and the handling of charity contributions linked to a VH1-connected organization formed in 2021. Everyone remained motionless. Chrissy's counsel objected quickly. "Your Honor, this is unconnected to the current situation," but the court shut it down again. "We're not discussing innocence. We're discussing admissibility. And it's admissible the first file played, it was Chrissy's voice again in a phone conversation. Background noises matched a trailer likely backstage at a VH1 event. I instructed Mona to reroute that money Jim didn't need to know we used his name to promote the gala. That is all. The rest went to managing post-production." Another voice answered, "Female scared Chrissy. Lampkin, that's fraud," Chrissy said bluntly. "No, that's television." The tape ended. The courtroom didn't move because this wasn't just a betrayal of the heart. It was possibly federal wire fraud. Jim's name, likeness, and reputation were utilized in charity mailings to funnel donations back into unapproved production expenses. Jim's lawyer got up again. "Your Honor, we want urgent clearance to add these facts into our current action for brand defamation and emotional sabotage." The court nodded. Motion granted, and VH1's legal. He stood pale, clearly sweating, muttered something to an assistant, then turned to the judge and requested if they may address the court in chambers. The judge refused it since it was public, viral, and too huge to be. Behind oak doors, the VH1 lawyer stated, "We were unaware of the financial routing. We had no knowledge of the secondary production logs or unsanctioned footage." The court inquired, and Ms. Scott Young, the spokesperson, hesitated, unavailable for comment. Of course she was, since Mona Scott Young had gone ghost. No emails, no public pronouncements, not even a cryptic Instagram quotation. Nothing. She knew the tidal wave was coming, and she was nearly halfway to the bunker. But back in court, the tsunami had struck, and Chrissy Lampkin finally spoke up, not to defend herself, not to deny anything, but to admit she stood up alone. "I messed up," she whispered gently, not to the judge, not to Jim Jones, but to no one in particular. "I kept telling myself I could juggle the image and display the true sentiments. I believed I could love him in public and recover in private, but I lost both aspects of myself. Jim didn't look at her. Once she began, Camron was genuine, as was JimJones, and I just stopped being real with either of them, and it became into a machine, a show that I couldn't get out of. The judge permitted her to continue, perhaps out of curiosity, or because this was the final page of a screenplay that no one wanted to write. Chrissy concluded, "I don't expect forgiveness from Jim, the fans, or anyone, but I want the truth on record because I'm tired of hiding behind scenes." She sat down, and there was stillness for about a full minute before the judge remarked, "Considering the gravity of the evidence, the opposing financial interests, and the risk of continuing reputational injury to public bodies, this court will grant all claims for damages awaiting a final hearing, and this court is forwarding the nonprofit case to federal authorities for further investigation." It was finished. Not technically, but emotionally. Camron had already departed. He didn't wait for the final verdict. He put one more item to his narrative. A single statement. She simply screamed it louder than I ever could as a clip from Dipsets's I Truly Mean It played. Chrissy Lampkin exited via the back again. No security, no entourage, no Mona Jim stepped out last. His crew tried to draw him toward a press exit. He threw them off and walked through the front entrance into the throng cameras flashing reporters. Yelling, but he didn't say a word. He got in his SUV, locked the door, and drove off by nightfall. The internet was on fire again. A leaked staff conversation from VH1 reached Reddit. Inside production leaked images of Mona's last internal message before the controversy hit the courts, which read, "If that footage leaks, we're finished. JimJones doesn't know half of what was scripted. Let legal handle the rest." Comments. Exploded. She used his trauma as a storyboard. Chrissy did not lie on TV. She practiced it. VH1 is about to be the next Fyre Festival. And then another. And then another. Drop a video shared anonymously revealed a deleted Jim and Chrissy Lampkin were working on a Netflix trailer when he asked her, "Are you ready to build a life with me or a season?" She chuckles and replies, "Why not both?" But now there's no season, no life, no future. Netflix withdrew out sponsors. Production paused. The series was shelved within 24 hours. Mona's name was removed from the website. VH1's press contact went black. And by the morning, Dipset's official Instagram unfollowed Chrissy Lampkin. And every intern who had ever handled a camera near her did the same. Jim's bio stated, "Rebuilding. Do not ask me anything." Chrissy uploaded only one thing, a black square with no caption or explanation. And in the comment area, hundreds of people coming in. Was it worth it? You broke the last faithful one. Cam sold a tale. You sold your soul. Then the last nail came. From Cam. He announced the complete release of the footage they tried to hide, a 3-part series releasing next Friday, and the trailer don't even begin with Chrissy Lampkin. Instead, Jim appears alone on a rooftop clutching a glass, stating, "I've spent my entire life trying to protect people who only needed a stage." Then there was silence, followed by a fade to black and the final words, "The actual." Narrative was never about love, but about loyalty and who destroyed it first. The world watched dumbfounded, addicted, and now there's nothing left to protect. Not the brand, not the image, not even the history. Just 3 names, JimJones, Chrissy, Camron, and a legacy that will never recover because the film is out, and it's never going away. But now that it's all out in the open, the footage, confessions, and courtroom breakdown, we have to wonder what was genuine. Was it the love story we all rooted for? The loyalty Dipset claimed to be founded on? Or all a cleverly produced illusion sewn together by producers, fueled by secrets and sold to us as forever because JimJones didn't just lose a partner, he lost his legacy, and Chrissy Lampkin stepped into that courthouse and tore it apart, one statement, one voicemail, one silence at a time. And Camron didn't just release a tape, he burned fire to the entire machine and went away, with the only thing that mattered truth. But now it's your time. Do you think Chrissy ever loved Jim? Or was she's only exploiting him to boost her brand? Was Cam her salvation or her strategy? Drop your theories in the comments. Don't hold back if you're still with us. Still in disbelief, press the like button to keep the narrative alive. And if you desire every leaked video, every courtroom twist, every secret betrayal before the internet buries it, hit subscribe and ring that bell, because this story is far from done, and the next leak might simply rewrite what you thought I knew what.